All right, so hey everybody, today we're out in the driveway and we're going to talk about my Landroid. So I have the large model. I've had it 2 years now, so this is the second season. And as you've probably seen by the title, I searched and searched before I bought this thing to try to find videos that talked about reviews on large acreage or mowing their whole yard. Everything that I found with the Landroids was people that had, small yards in town, whatever, not really stretching these things to their max. My large is rated for a half acre, I believe. And so I have almost 2 acres. I have just under 2 acres here at my property. And I knew that getting the Landroid was not going to mow the entire property. But I was curious. I wanted to try it out. I wanted to, see these robotic mowers, what they were all about, if they were capable of mowing a yard like I have. So I planned on sectioning off a portion of my yard and putting it to the test and see how it would work. And after a full year, this is the second season now, we're going to see how it did. So installation-wise, putting the boundary wire in was not difficult. But it did take some trial and error. I did have to adjust things several times, and I'm actually still adjusting things. If you can see behind me, around this concrete pad that I have that my camper sits on, the problem with it is the yard slopes up just slightly to the concrete. And even though that's a very slight increase, you probably can't even see it on camera, it's kind of a challenge for the Landroid. I put the wire the proper distance away from the concrete, just the way the installation instructions said, but it's very hard for the cut to edge function to even work because the wheel is constantly trying to get on and off the concrete and it fights itself. So yes, it advertises cut to edge, but it's not really cut to edge. Ideally, I would have to take more dirt and build this out farther and slope it down even more gradual than what it already is. And if you can see Landroid coming up right now, we'll see what it does. It's going to come up and it's probably going to turn and go away because it's not doing a return to home function right now. And I actually had to pull my camper ahead a little bit because I had the tires clear to the back and it kept in a, it would bump into the tires and then it would get messed up. And it seems I have this thing running every day, and it seems almost daily or every other day something happens. It gets stuck somewhere. It'll say it's outside of the boundary or whatever. But hey, I'm not out here, for an hour mowing this part of the yard. So like I said, I have just under 2 acres, and the Landroid that I have, I believe it's the WR155, I believe is the model number. It's rated for a half acre, and it's rated for a half acre, and so that's what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to push it to the max. And actually, when I walked this out with the app, the Landroid app, I walked out the perimeter that I wanted to do, and I'm just barely over a half an acre that I have this robot mowing. So I have mixed feelings on it. Does it work? Yes. Does it work well? No. And I'm going to turn the camera here, and we're going to talk about things that I like and things that I don't like. So this is one of the problem areas that I had with my Landroid. I had this mulch area that I wanted to put down because it was kind of hard to weed eat and mow all the time, and I'm due for some new mulch. This is the first day of May. I'm planning on putting some more mulch down, refreshing this a little bit. And I haven't weed eated yet because I wanted to show in this video. I had the boundary wire set up to my edging. I have the black plastic edging along this. And I had the boundary wire set properly, but it was Landroid was continually getting stuck here because it would either, the grass would be wet or a little damp, and it would spin a hole with one wheel trying to make the turns. And this is actually relatively flat. There's hardly any hill here at all. It's very flat actually. So I had to move the wire farther away, and in doing so, now I have this that I have to weed eat, which is not a big deal, but it's something to consider. There is still going to be yard maintenance with a robotic lawnmower. The cut to edge function is only in very, very specific circumstances when you can get your grass and the object you're trimming against perfectly flush with no distractions, and you can actually get that wheel over to what you need to cut. So you would have to either put landscaping in, install that with that in mind, or modify the landscaping you have to make it work properly. So this is a look at the area that my Landroid mows. Everything I'm going to pan in and show you basically within this camera angle. There's the neighbor's house. So, and it's actually going to show you where he's going to go and stop is the boundary wire. That's my outside shed. So, and then it mows right over to this left side of your screen right here. So it mows this, around my shed, around a little area in the back of my shed, and then over to where he's going right now. You're going to see he's going to hit the boundary wire and turn around and come back. See there, he hit the boundary wire. So that's as far as it goes. Now, if I zoom in, you're going to see the biggest issue I have with this. Like I said, I have this pushed to its max. It's rated for a half acre, and I'm just barely over a half acre when I walked it out, and I actually walked it using the perimeter function on the Landroid app. And I have this right now mowing from 9:30 in the morning to 12:30 a.m. So basically all day long and into the night, but not 24 hours. The reason for that is the wetness of the grass. Now they say that this will mow during wet weather, but it's just not great because the grass gets so matted on the bottom of the unit, and I just don't like doing that. So I try to mow it only during the day when the grass is dry. And really, when there's heavy dew at night, it's actually mowing when it probably shouldn't be. But that's one of the biggest downfalls. So as you can see, does it keep the yard mowed? Yes, but it's not all the same height. I don't know if the camera will show it, but you have all these tracks of various heights grass, you know, shorter, higher, from where it's recently made a path and where it hasn't made a path and the grass has grown up. Now, we have had considerable amounts of rain. We just got through the month of April, and we got quite a lot of rain, I would say several inches. It's been about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 days since it's rained last, but the grass is still very actively growing. And like I said, I have it mowing from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. and it does it. I haven't had to mow it with my regular lawnmower, but it doesn't look great. You got high spots, low spots. It's just all over the board. I could try to make this thing mow 24 hours a day, but like I said, the grass, you know, gets wet, and you know, I worry about something happening. And I do have the GPS tracker on it, so I'm not considered about, when I say something happening, I'm not considering theft or anything like that. When I say something happening is basically if I have it run all night long, what's going to happen is it's going to get stuck somewhere, it's going to go out of the boundary, whatever, and it's not going to be mowing anyway. Because just the time that I have it mowing now, 9:30 to 12:30, like I said, almost every day, maybe every other day, I have to come out and fix it because it's stuck somewhere, something happened, whatever. Now, is that partially my fault because of the way it's installed? Yeah, probably. But I don't have that complicated of a yard. It's basically just a rectangle with things going around it, but it's the trim to edge function that causes the problem. If I were to relay my boundary wire and stay, you know, well away from all my edges and things, it would probably run a lot smoother. There would be drastically fewer times that I would have to fix it, but that's not the point of it. They advertise the cut to edge and they tell you how to install the boundary wire. So that's what I did, and it just causes too many problems. If I had to relay the boundary wire all over again, which I'm not going to because it's too much work, I would do things differently. So I would say if you're researching this Landroid and you're considering whether or not it will mow up to what it's rated for, the answer is yes, but don't expect a perfectly looking lawn unless the grass is not growing as actively as it is right now. Now, last season, I used it to mow all last season, and it kept up. I think I only had to mow the yard with my regular mower one time, and that's just because it was growing so fast and I was having issues with certain parts of the boundary wire, and it got behind a couple days when we went on vacation, so I had to come home and I had to mow it with a regular mower just to knock it back down again. But again, it will get the job done. just don't expect perfect results, and be very mindful of how close you put your boundary wire to things. Unevenness of the ground, if there's a little tiny dip in an area, I don't have a lawn roller, so I don't roll my yard yet. I want to, but if there's dips, remember it's a fixed four-corner suspension. There's no suspension or flex or anything. They're just fixed four wheels positions. The front wheels will go up and down very minutely, but the back is fixed. So if there is a little divot or drop out, it loses traction and it'll just spin itself a hole. And you know, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes it'll say it's stuck. Sometimes it'll just sit there and it'll try to go and it'll think it's mowing, so it won't give you an error or anything like that, and it'll just run itself dead. So one of the other issues or complaints that I have with the Landroid is the way the base functions. Now, once I got it set up, I will say that when it returns to the base, it'll dock and charge every time. I've never had to mess with it not charging or not making connection to charge. The issue that I have is this right here, all this grass. So it comes in and charges, but when it leaves the same way every time. It kind of comes out at an angle right here. This never gets mowed right here. And yeah, I can run the weed eater here. It just kind of bugs me. You would think that they would have a program so once in a while it would come off at a different angle. It would go straight or it would alter some way, but every time it starts up, it does the same thing. It comes out at an angle this way and goes that way. So that kind of bothers me right here. I put a piece of plastic down because this is a grid and grass was growing up through this. So I took the base up and I put a piece of landscaping plastic underneath here to keep the grass down from underneath of it. But this still leaves this exposed and just grass keeps going up. One thing that I did differently out here is since I have my base in my outside shed, which does not have electricity run to it, I run my entire lawnmower off of solar power. So I bought these solar panels at Harbor Freight, and then I had an issue with getting enough charge all the time, so I put that extra 100-watt solar power. So I've got 100 watts down here with the 4 units from Harbor Freight and 100 watts with the one, I believe that's a Renogy I got off of Amazon, I believe. So I have 200 watts of power, and then I just have 2 of the batteries, the deep cycle batteries from Harbor Freight running into there. And with that combination, I've found out that that will run me all the time. It'll keep the battery charged up and mowing through cloudy days and rainy days and everything else. Another issue that you'll see right here is the tracks that Landroid makes. So because it has to follow the boundary wire back to the base every single time, it will wear tracks in your yard. Now, if you have a small yard and Landroid only has to mow a couple hours a day or once or twice a day, twice a week, you know, the tracks won't be as bad because the grass can recover faster. However, when you have it maxed out like I do at half acre, this thing only runs about an hour, maybe to an hour and 15 minutes, and then it'll come back and it'll have to charge for about an hour. When I go back through the activities log, that's about what it is. It fluctuates a few minutes here and there, but basically it'll run about an hour and 15 minutes and it'll charge about an hour. So that is lots and lots of trips back to this base that it makes every day. That originally was a square corner right there that you just saw, and I had to modify that because the square corner was giving it issues because it's doing this so frequently. So yeah, expect if you're running in at max capacity that you are definitely going to get some tracks around where the boundary wire is. And we'll come over here and I'll just have you watch it dock. And again, I've got some issues with my ramp here for my garage. I've got to put some fill dirt in there because it's almost to the point where it's getting stuck right there. So I need some fill dirt around that ramp. And then it goes into dock with no problem. And it'll charge with no problem. So like I said, I have 200 watts of solar, 2 deep cycle batteries. They're the ones from Harbor Freight. I don't remember what the rating is. They're not very big, so I'm guessing they're 100 amp hour or less each. And that runs me continuously. The only time that I've had to where I did not have enough solar to power it was through the end of the season last year when we got down into the fall and we had lots and lots of cloudy days. Then I believe I did start to run out of battery. But through the whole spring, the whole summer, it managed to keep going constantly with just solar power. So how has the Landroid held up to abuse? Like I said, this is my second season with this unit. I got it at the beginning of the year last year. They mowed the whole season last year. I'm in Michigan. And this is what it looks like. Now, about a month ago when I got it out for the season, I just wiped it off with a paper towel. I didn't use water or anything. So yeah, it's got its share of scrapes and scratches along the sides here. I'm not sure exactly what that's from, but like I said, when I first installed this, there was plenty of issues with it getting stuck here and there, things like that, but it doesn't look terrible. And actually, the thing I'm pretty impressed with is the LCD screen right here seems to be fairly resilient. It's still pretty clear. It's not scratched up or anything. I mean, it's not perfect, but if I wiped it off with some water and cleaner, it would probably be just as good as new. All the controls are good. The battery compartment actually does keep the battery sealed out. It's still perfectly clean and dry in there, so that's good. Now, another complaint I have is the mower disc, and I'll show you that right now. So I've just tipped Landroid upside down off the charging base, and this is what it looks like underneath. Like I said, these wheels have about maybe a ½ inch of up and down motion, but that's not really going to do a whole lot because those are just your casters, they're not your drive wheels. The drive wheels are still in good condition, and they do a really good job of keeping the axle area cleared here. They don't get built up with too much. Never really had to mess with that. However, the disc here, I'm not sure what the purpose of this is. I guess it's just for protection, but it causes some issues. And I told you that I don't have it mowing when the grass is wet if possible, because this area gets clogged right here. This will start getting built up on the inside with the wet grass. And because I'm probably mowing too much of the grass at one point instead of just nipping the tops off, you know, if you had a smaller yard, I'm actually cutting a pretty good section. You can see the high spots and low spots. So them high spots on the grass there, that's what it's cutting off. So I do replace the razor blades quite frequently. I just feel it helps, hopefully, with cutting the grass better. So I put these on about a week ago, roughly, and they're still fairly sharp. But what happens is grass builds up underneath, like this one right here, and that does not. I can barely turn that with my thumb right there. So periodically, if it gets stuck, I'll come out and I'll clear the grass out from underneath of these, if possible. And actually, this one right here, the last time I put this blade in, I could not get that screw all the way down for the life of me, and I didn't want to break it, so I just left it where it was. So it's got a little more play in it than what it should, but actually that's the clearest one. So if they were all like that, they'd probably be fine. And I've looked at the Husqvarna mowers, and they have an extra blade or an extra disc that covers the blades on the bottom side. That's probably a good idea. I don't know because I don't own a Husqvarna, but what happens is sometimes if this has gotten stuck on something, a tree root or something, it'll wear the tops of these screw heads off, and I've had to use vice grips to actually clamp onto the top of that screw head and turn it out that way. This area right here gets built up a little bit, and this is a floating deck head, so this actually goes up and down, and grass does kind of get built up underneath there. You can kind of see it, some of it just fell out. That's never really caused me an issue yet. But that's probably the biggest reason why I don't mow during the night or during rain, is because this area right here gets plugged up with grass and causes problems. So if I could actually mow 24 hours a day with this thing, I'm sure that it would do a better job of keeping my yard better maintained. But again, the moisture problem and the getting stuck issues keep me from doing that. But yeah, it'll mow a ½ an acre, but there's caveats. So hopefully this has helped you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. And thanks for watching.